In archaeology, nothing is ever certain. Time and again, researchers have devoted their lives to the search for lost artifacts and locations that could transform our understanding of history and lend credibility to theories that once dismissed as fringe. So, today, instead of revisiting discoveries we've already made, because that would be boring, we're stepping into the realm of the unknown and the mysterious to explore what experts are still seeking. From lost tombs to ancient not really. To vanished cities. These are the discoveries archaeologists most hope to uncover. Although aliens would be a big one, wouldn't it? That would be a bit of a banger. Alexander's tomb. Alexander the Great was a figure unlike any other in history. In just 12 years, he conquered much of the known world, earning both notoriety and reverence from Asia to Africa. Yet at only 32, his conquests abruptly ended when he died in Babylon in 323 BC. As the proclaimed son of Zeus Ammon, an amalgamation of the Greek and Egyptian supreme gods, because why not? Alexander had requested to be buried at the gods' temple in the Siwa oasis. His generals, however, had other plans. Disregarding his wishes, they plunged into the wars of Diadochi, battling one another for control over their former god king's empire. During the conflict, one of his generals, Ptolemy, seized Alexander's funeral cart en route to Macedonia. He brought the body to Memphis, Egypt's ancient capital, to legitimize his own claim over the region and promptly establish the Ptolemaic dynasty. Soon after, Ptolemy transferred Alexander's remains to Alexandria, the new capital, where he laid the dead king to rest in a magnificent mausoleum known as the Soma. For the next 6 centuries, this was where Alexander's body remains, though many of its burial treasures were looted over time, used to fund wars, display power, or just kept as personal possessions. And if there's one way that you're going to get your life cursed, well, that's it. During this period, the conqueror's tomb draws several notable visitors, including Julius Caesar. By around 400 AD, however, both the tomb and the body had vanished from historical record. Although a few medieval accounts claimed first-hand sightings, most have since been dismissed as dubious at best. Today, most scholars believe a series of late 4th century events, including riots, an earthquake, and a tsunami, likely caused the tomb's disappearance. It may have been submerged, buried among Alexandria's ancient ruins, or completely destroyed in one of these disasters. But hope persists yet. Since the 19th century, the Egyptian government has recognized 140 searches for Alexander's lost tomb, with countless more likely conducted without authorization. Among the most prominent seekers is Greek archaeologist Calliope Limenaeus Papacosta. Featured in National Geographic's 2019 documentary, The Lost Tomb of Alexander the Great. Nail on the head there with the title, Nat Geo. She has spent nearly 3 decades studying Hellenic antiquities in Alexandria. Her discoveries include the city's original royal road, a Ptolemaic period carved tunnel, and a statue of Alexander unearthed in 2009. Still, the conqueror's final resting place remains elusive. While not the sole focus of her research, the tomb of Alexander the Great remains a dream at the heart of many archaeologists' work. Just before we continue today, a quick word from our lovely sponsor, Sideprojects. So look, Halloween's great until you go out partying and not collecting trick-or-treat candy, but drinking with your mates. And then the next morning isn't so good, is it? You stay up too late, you have too many drinks, and suddenly coffee isn't enough. Well, that's where Zbiotics comes in. It's a probiotic drink that helps your body handle the byproducts of alcohol. Basically, it supports your gut so you can feel more like yourself the next day. Which is nice. You drink it as your first drink of the night, and Zbiotics does its work while you sleep off the drinks. This isn't magic, it's just smart science. Engineered probiotics that actually break down what your body struggles with after drinking. So if you want to try it, click on the link in the description below. You'll get 15% off your first order with free shipping, or just scan the QR code on the screen. It goes straight to the website. And if for any reason you're not satisfied, Zbiotics offer a 100% money-back guarantee, no questions asked. So you don't really have anything to lose. Enjoy your Halloween responsibly and maybe a little smarter with Zbiotics. And now back to today's episode. Hanging Gardens of Babylon. In 225 BC, the Greek engineer Philo published On the Seven Wonders, describing 7 human-made marvels so extraordinary they deserve to be seen by all. His list included the Great Pyramid of Giza, the statue of Zeus, the Temple of Artemis, the Museum of Halicarnassus, the Colossus of Rhodes, the Lighthouse of Alexandria, and the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Yet, of these magnificent sites, only one's very existence has been seriously doubted by historians: the Hanging Gardens. As the name suggests, the gardens are said to be in Babylon, one of the ancient world's greatest cities, which endured for nearly 2,000 years, outlasting multiple empires who called it home. According to the 1st century AD historian Josephus, they were built by King Nebuchadnezzar II around the early 6th century BC for his queen who longed for the green, mountainous landscape of her homeland. He described them as a pensile paradise filled with many kinds of trees, implying plants hanging downward. Other writers of the era, including Strabo and Diodorus, expanded this picture, portraying a vast tiered garden with walls 22 feet or 7 meters thick and ingenious Archimedes screws lifting water diverted from the Euphrates. Yet none of these authors ever actually saw the gardens firsthand. Even Josephus was apparently quoting an earlier account by the Babylonian priest Berossus, recorded around 290 BC. Curiously, Josephus was also the only source to name Nebuchadnezzar II as the builder. The others simply attribute the creation to an unnamed Assyrian king. Points that have been raised by Dr. Stephanie Daly, an Assyriologist at Oxford University and one of the few scholars in the world able to read ancient Babylonian cuneiform, believes the gardens did exist, but she disputes their location. Instead of Babylon, she argues that they were actually in Nineveh, the capital of the Assyrian Empire. By the time ancient historians were writing about the Hanging Gardens, they were already confused about Mesopotamian geography, she explains. After all, most of the historians who describe the gardens were as separated by time from ancient Mesopotamia as we are from Roman London. This means they were likely guessing about more than just place names. For instance, Diodorus repeatedly mixed up Babylon and Nineveh, even placing the latter on the banks of the Euphrates, when in fact Nineveh stood on the Tigris while Babylon lay on the Euphrates. Dr. Daly also notes that although no evidence of the Hanging Gardens has ever been found in Babylon, Nineveh was known to have a celebrated royal garden. King Sennacherib, who ruled Assyria from 705 to 681 BC, recorded in his annals, "I raised the height of the surroundings of the palace to be a wonder for all peoples, a high garden imitating the Amarnas mountains. I laid out next to it with all kinds of aromatic plants." These annals describe the garden in even greater detail, depicting it as a hilltop paradise filled with varied vegetation, including wool-bearing trees and orchard fruits. The gardens were supplied by an ingenious irrigation system that used bronze wires, ropes, cylinders, and devices much like Archimedes' screws to lift water, details that closely echo the ancient descriptions of Babylon's gardens. Today, many historians support Dr. Daly's Nineveh theory, believing that early writers simply attributed the attraction to the wrong city. If so, archaeologists may one day uncover the legendary gardens within the ruins of Nineveh on the outskirts of modern-day Mosul in northern Iraq. American Vikings. For generations, students, at least in the United States, were taught about the discovery of the New World through a simple rhyme. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. And that was the story. Columbus's voyage was presented as the first European discovery of the Americas, setting the stage for the next 500 years of history. Yet this narrative starkly contrasts with what has been known since at least the 1960s and potentially even earlier, that Europeans in the form of Vikings had crossed the Atlantic more than 4 centuries before Columbus. This account first appeared in the Vinland sagas, 2 13th century Icelandic texts. In the saga of Eric the Red and the saga of the Greenlanders, Vikings set out from their homelands, braving treacherous seas to reach Vinland or Wineland. There, on unfamiliar shores, they established 2 settlements and made contact with native peoples, initially trading but soon clashing. Hostilities escalated until the Vikings abandoned their new outposts and returned home. Although these sagas should have established European contact with the New World as fact nearly 300 years before King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella backed Columbus, their contradictions, legendary figures, and exaggerated tales from oral tradition led many to dismiss them as just fiction for centuries. Then, in the early 16th century, when European explorers in New England encountered native peoples, rumors began circulating about an ancient Viking settlement somewhere near present-day Boston. Known as Norumbega, this legendary village became so famous it appeared on multiple maps of the New World, luring explorers, including a renowned navigator and Quebec founder Samuel de Champlain. Despite repeated efforts, no settlement was ever found, and most dismissed the story as just a legend. Yet some remained convinced, dedicating years to the hunt. In the 19th century, American chemist Eben Norton Horsford took up the search, convinced the site lay along the Charles River near Boston. This was a quest his daughter, archaeologist Cornelia Horsford, passionately continued after his death. Then, in the 1960s, one such search produced a discovery that would begin to rewrite North American history. Among the archaeologists persuaded of Viking exploration were Norwegian husband and wife team Helga and Anne Ingstad. Drawing on the Vinland sagas but ignoring the New England rumors, the pair reasoned that any evidence of Vikings would most likely be found at the northern tip of Newfoundland in Canada. Near a paved bay, a local led them to grass-covered mounds, and subsequent excavations revealed the first confirmed Viking settlement in North America. Named La Anse aux Meadows, the site dated to around 1000 AD. Archaeologists uncovered timber-framed, sod-covered buildings, evidence of ironworking, including a forge and iron slag, a carpentry workshop, rivets, nails, food pits, and more. These finds proved it was not merely a brief stopover, but a lived-in settlement which reshapes history on both sides of the Atlantic. Even so, most historians believe the settlement was short-lived, abandoned within a few years due to the harsh environment, supply challenges, or conflicts with native peoples, as the sagas suggest. Still, some historians challenge the prevailing view, theorizing that the Vikings may have remained in North America longer and even established additional settlements farther inland, though likely not as far as New England. One such expert is American archaeologist and Egyptologist Dr. Sarah Parsack, who believes satellite imagery may hold the key to uncovering these hidden sites. Parsack has already used this technology to locate previously unknown Egyptian and Roman ruins, and in 2016 she turned her attention to North America. Focusing on areas around Newfoundland, she identified several promising locations. After narrowing them down, Parsack chose to excavate at Point Rossi on Newfoundland's western tip, about 400 miles or 644 kilometers south and west of La Anse aux Meadows. There, her team uncovered evidence that, while circumstantial, it's difficult to dismiss: a possible turf wall surrounding what appeared to be a hearth marked by blackened stone atop piles of cooked bog iron mixed with charcoal. According to Parsack, there is no plausible explanation for these deposits other than Viking ironworking, suggesting the site could have been another settlement. Although Point Rossi's status as a Viking outpost remains unconfirmed, it represents the newest piece of evidence for Norse exploration and possibly colonization of the New World, sparking renewed efforts to search for further proof. Akkad. In 2334 BC, Sargon the Great unified Mesopotamia under his rule, creating the first known empire in human history. Spanning much of modern-day Iraq and parts of Syria, the Akkadian Empire introduced the world to the first centralized government, the earliest postal system, advanced irrigation networks, and countless other innovations. At the heart of this empire stood its grand capital, Akkad, reportedly founded by Sargon himself, potentially East Babylon. Some scholars, however, believe Akkad actually predated Sargon and that he merely rebuilt an already ancient city. In its time, Akkad became a vast commercial, religious, and political hub. Among its notable structures, the Ulmash temple dedicated to Ishtar, the Semitic goddess of war, was especially renowned. Through trade with other great powers, including the Indus Valley civilization, the city was said to brim with exotic goods, even animals such as monkeys, crocodiles, and elephants, all imported from far-off lands. The Akkadian Empire, however, proved very short-lived, collapsing around 2154 BC due to a mix of factors, including climate change and invasions by the Getians, a mounted people of the Near East. Later empires such as the Assyrians and Babylonians studied Akkadian history, revering its culture and legacy, but Akkad itself fell into ruin and was abandoned to the elements. Within 1500 years of its collapse, the Akkadians' achievements so captivated subsequent civilizations that the Babylonian king Nabonidus, affectionately called the archaeologist king by historians, devoted much of his reign to excavating the ancient city. According to Nabonidus, he uncovered the ruins of the Ulmush temple, restored it to its former glory, and even rebuilt 2 ziggurats that he had found. Yet at some point, between his time and our own, Akkad vanished once again, and today scholars continue to debate the exact location of this lost metropolis. For years, ancient texts led them to believe Akkad lay somewhere along the banks of the Euphrates River. Today, however, most think it was closer to the Tigris, between the modern-day cities of Baghdad and Samarra in Iraq. While ancient sources placed the city on a river, Akkad was likely situated between the two, linked to both by an extensive network of canals. These canals, navigable and reportedly connecting Akkadian cities to one another, may have been what the ancient texts described rather than the Tigris or Euphrates themselves. Others argue the confusion stems from the river's shifting course over thousands of years, which may have even washed the city away entirely. One of the leading researchers in the hunt for Akkad is Nellie Ziegler, an Assyriologist at France's National Center for Scientific Research. Drawing on records of an ancient convoy that reportedly stopped in the capital, she believes Akkad lies somewhere between Baghdad and eastern Syria, though that is as precise as the evidence allows. Still, she and other archaeologists continue to hope for its discovery. Ziegler notes Akkad presided over a cultural revolution so profound that even 1500 years after its fall, regional kings still evoked it as the pinnacle of civilization. Any new insight into Akkad, its people, or its past could transform our understanding of Mesopotamian history and perhaps shed light on cultures that predated the world's first empire. The land of Punt. If finding a lost city seems daunting, it pales in comparison to the search for an entire kingdom. The first known mention of the land of Punt appears on the Palermo stone, the earliest royal inscriptions from Egypt's Old Kingdom. Around 2450 BC, during the reign of King Sahur, Egyptian traders reportedly led the first successful expedition to Punt, a distant superpower, returning with a trove of gold, silver, slaves, timber, and myrrh. Even then, trade between the two kingdoms was infrequent, as the journey was long and arduous. Yet, every recorded expedition brought back extraordinary riches, including ivory, ebony, elephant tusks, and exotic animals such as baboons. Over time, however, this trade faded, and so too did mentions of Punt and its wealth. By Queen Hatshepsut's reign, around 1470 BC, both the route to Punt and its exact location had been forgotten. To re-establish ties, she launched an expedition solely to find it. Ancient texts recount how she sent 210 men aboard 5 ships, sailing down the Nile before dismantling their vessels to carry them overland to the Red Sea, where they were reassembled. From there, the expedition completed its journey, rediscovering Punt and returning with lavish treasures, including 31 myrrh trees whose roots can still be seen today at Hatshepsut's mortuary temple near modern Luxor. For nearly 3 centuries after, Egypt and Punt continued trading until contact was lost again, likely around 1100 BC. For almost 3,000 years, that was the last anyone heard of the land of Punt. Most scholars accepted that it was real, especially considering that Egyptian trade records are typically reliable, and the myrrh trees at Hatshepsut's temple offer tangible evidence. But without further proof, it remained an enigma. Who these people were, what their cities looked like, or even where they lived was just unknown. Based on traced goods, many placed Punt somewhere along the Red Sea, likely near the Horn of Africa, while others speculated it lay farther south or even in southern Arabia. But these were only educated guesses. The Egyptians never mapped Punt, referring to it simply and reverently as Ta Netyer, or God's Land. Then, new evidence began to emerge in the 2000s. Between 2001 and 2011, archaeologist Dr. Catherine Bard of Boston University led excavations at Egypt's Middle Kingdom Red Sea port of Wadi Oasis. There, her team uncovered ancient ship remains inscribed with hieroglyphics detailing trading expeditions to Punt, along with artifacts and treasures from the kingdom itself. Most striking were 2 cargo boxes labeled "The Wonderful Things of Punt," listing their contents, clues that led Bard to theorize Punt lay in modern eastern Sudan. In 2020, a study narrowed the search further. Because baboons are not native to Egypt, a team from Dartmouth College, led by primatologist Dr. Nathaniel Domini, analyzed the remains of mummified baboons dated between 1500 to 1100 BC, the same period Hatshepsut reinitiated trade with Punt. After pinpointing their origins at the Horn of Africa, the team compared the remains with modern baboons of known provenance. The results strongly linked the animals to present-day Eritrea, specifically near the ancient port of Adulis. Even with this new evidence, though, the exact location of Punt and the scope of its influence remain a mystery. Its cities, culture, and legacy have yet to be uncovered. Archaeologists still hope to find a settlement, a ship, or even a single artifact from this ancestral homeland, anything that could finally illuminate the story of this elusive and ancient kingdom. Thank you for watching.